So let's try again. I get a little excited when people are trying to blow up the entire world and destroy all of life. But for you, we'll try one more time so that you can know. So go the back way. The people who are trying to ignite fusion, claiming that they can combine two atoms into one atom, have no clue as to what is an atom actually is or does, or how it's created, or any such thing. They cannot tell you. And I have explained how it's done, but in websites that I own, or books, or what have you. But nonetheless, we start with supernova. You've heard of that. That's the sun blowing up, and a sun cannot blow up, cannot increase the amount of fuel that it burns unless there is fuel to burn. That's a common reality. You understand that. No fuel, no fire. Too much fuel, you get a fire. Fuel that hasn't been burned, that's concentrated, and you get an explosion. So a supernova is a sun that grows 3 times its volume, and that's because it's burning more fuel. More fuel, that's very important. And then it blows up because the ability for the fuel to not be fully engaged is lost, and the disciplines are lost, and it explodes and causes the protein, or the mass of things that become an atom later on. So, the dust that becomes an atom, the tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces. So we know that is true. We know that the sun actually gives off radiation. It actually burns fuel to give off radiation. That's not a game. It's not a toy. It's not magic, just as the university claims it is. It's not magic. It's not made of elements that do not exist. And they have no claim of an element that does not, CERN claims to have created 3 or 4 different elements by the computer. Well, the computer doesn't make anything. It's all a lie. It's all a fabrication. It's their imagination trying to contain you from investigating their lives and shutting them down for the failure they are. Nonetheless, the sun does not burn as a hot core and out. That's utterly ridiculous, because the laws of thermodynamics do not allow for that. Or back to the candle, and it burns on top of the fuel. We understand that the actual heat requires expansion. You can't have heat without expanding, because it needs more space, more activity is going on inside the same space, and it needs to grow so that it can create enough space for it to exist, or it doesn't get to burn. So the sun doesn't burn on the planet itself, and it is a rock beneath that surface of the moon is a rock. And what it is the burning of atoms, and the burning of atoms are released to be burned by the intensity of the fire that is on top of them. So it has an 11-year cycle, and that means that it burns. It starts out close to the planet, let's say, and the burning of it creates more fuel and more fuel into the fire, which makes it grow. So the fire continues to grow until the space between the actual fuel and the actual fire is large enough so that the actual fire cools down a bit, and then that causes the thermodynamics to shrink a bit, and that causes the force of that fire to create more fuel by causing the rocks on the very outer edge of the planet to be exploded into fuel. So we know without a doubt that the core of the sun is not on fire. It's not hot. It's none of that. Because if it was, there would be no fuel to burn. If the sun is on fire, basically, if it's completely molten, or whatever you want to call it, vaporized, whatever you want to call it, at its core, it is not stable. It is not stable. It is nothing about stability there. And that means it cannot survive. It cannot sustain a fire. It cannot continue as part of this planet. It is, it is a supernova, because a supernova is the effect of, it got too hot, therefore it blew up. But a supernova is, in fact, the place where anti-gravity, or not anti-gravity, or the anti-mass and anti-energy, so-called, the negative forces, were made. Because when a planet blows up, it's such a mass that is involved that if everything is right, the core, when it blows up, cannot escape fast enough. And that causes the forces that are being released to be turned back into the core, into what was the core. And that causes things to implode as the rest of it explodes. And that creates the black hole that that science gives you. So it is an opposite force to what is being expelled. And when those two forces combine together later on through neutron stars, through pulsars, which eject that way, let's go back. So we know that that the sun cannot be totally hot at the core. We know that, or it would not be stable, and it would not last. It would not last. There's no possibility that it would last. There is no such thing as a graviton holding it together, because the energy of an atom is bound within the spin of the proton within the atom, because we know that has force. A mass that is traveling at tremendous speeds has force. So we know that that's where the containment of an atom, the energy of an atom, can and does exist. We know that because it's the only possible way. It's the only possible place. And it is a reality of life that kinetic forces E equals mc squared, which is mass times speed equals energy. It doesn't make energy, it equals energy. There's a difference in that. So, there's a force that creates the energy in the first place. And that's separate from the energy that is created and becomes kinetic, or the negative energy either. So there is no such thing as a graviton, because if they're, things that are too big cannot sustain themselves, cannot be coated thoroughly with a neutron, cannot become atomic energy. They just simply blow up, or become joined as asteroids and things. So let's just stop there for a minute and remember that the people who are trying to ignite a nuclear fire here, let's burn atoms, is what they claim. Because we don't want to stop burning fossil fuels, so we want to continue on. We want. And that, of course, is their driving force. They're going to make it happen. But they're gambling with the entire world. Literally gambling with everything on Earth, because if they're wrong, and of course they are wrong, because they're completely fantasizing about everything and deluding themselves about what they want, so as to avoid the reality of what is actually true. So and they contain their jobs and get a bunch of money and so on. And humanity says, well, the university is God. They would know what they're doing. They wouldn't risk our lives, but they're risking your lives every day. In every way. If it wasn't for the university, we wouldn't be surrounded by weapons of mass destruction. If it wasn't for the university, we wouldn't be faced with biological weapons everywhere across the planet. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have trillions of tons of poison dumped on our planet. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have plastics and pollution everywhere. If it wasn't for them, we would probably not have an ocean that is devastated, and we wouldn't have a overpopulation, as you think is great, but on the other hand, it's the death of our planet. We have to stop that, or we'd have to die. So let's look at biology for a minute again. And not only bones make themselves and deliver themselves to different parts of your body and create, the same replica on each side of your body so you can actually move and use it. There's 600 and some odd muscles that all have to be created themselves and intertwined and connected in the right way. And if they don't connect themselves in the right way, then you end up with all kinds of maladies and so just endless amounts of problems. And of course, nature does it correctly because it has endless instructions to keep everything in place. And the university, throws that into chaos. They deliberately throw that into chaos. Their job, their point, their purpose of genetic research is to make something fail. So then they can say, well, that causes this. Because they figured they're going to be gods themselves. And of course they are going to be gods. They're going to be Satan. Which means to destroy life and planet. That's all it means. It means those who destroy life and planet. You can't destroy life and planet without extreme arrogance. You can't do it without extreme apathy among the people who let them do it. And you can't find the disrespect that is required to be completely ignorant and insane unless you accept the idea that I want to believe whatever I want to believe. And of course, that's exactly what cults do. They believe whatever they want to believe. And of course, you can't do that without followers. And the followers all say, as they did with COVID, that they must be right. They wouldn't hurt us. But of course, they would hurt you. Because all that really matters is how much money can they make, how much power and how much pride can they control, and how much manipulation can they create, so that you can propagate whatever it is they want, enslave you, as they do. Let's look at life from a different view, and we see that Trump has promised to be what we do not need him to be. We need to help him be what we need democracy to be. If he will not obey us, if he will not respect our contract, which is the preamble of the Constitution and its amendments, and its predecessor document, which is the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights that was created, it's called the Virginia Bill of Rights, which are, definitions of what we expect our nation to be and what we expect our world to be. We can't live a life on Earth if we release the flame fire that's on the sun here. They claim it's 1,000,000 miles long, 4 times further than the moon, and the radiation will melt you from 1,000 miles away. And instead of a rapture, they're just going to get pulled into the flame and incinerated. It's just the facts of life, the realities of what that energy release means. So for the last 50 years, and they've been doing this for, building this for 50 years, which is how I got involved with it. And throughout that time you said, we don't care, we don't care, we don't care. Throughout that time you said you didn't care about the money, don't care. Make me rich, that's all there was. Make me rich, that's all there was. Selfishness. I want to be rich. That's all there was. So now we're faced with the truth that they can do that because they're trying to create a self-sustaining plasma. Well, actually they're not trying to create a self-sustaining plasma, and they're hiding the fact that instead of 10-fold increase in energy, which is what they're reduced it to, they're expecting a 4 million times expression of energy instead. The same difference as TNT it is to an atomic bomb release. And they fail to mention that because they don't want you to know, because they don't want you to shut them down, because they don't want you to fear. And they control that with media propaganda that, the university is our God. The university is expert. The university wouldn't dare dare hurt us. No, sir. The university is God. Don't you understand? You can't question the university. The university is God. They're the cult. They're the leader. They're the expert. Who, of course, just wants whatever it is they want. As, humans do. They want to control your mind so that you do not challenge them. Believe, fear, obey is the rule of the day in every cult. You're not allowed to question. You're not allowed to know. You're not allowed to think. But you are allowed to die. Wake up.